Hi, everybody.
Hi,
Hi, Jeff. I'll apologize in advance because I mowed hay last night. My allergies went crazy. Then I took a Zyrtec and I slept for about 12 hours. And then to wake myself up today, I drank a 44-ounce fountain drink from Sheetz. So if the Zyrtec caffeine cocktail kicks in and I go crazy, just don't put this on YouTube and we'll be fine. So, all right, now that I think I'm with it, I'll do this. You know the usual way I do this when I do a lesson. I'll tell you a story, talk about a bunch of stuff, and hope it ties together. Well, this time you're getting two stories. Not one, but two. First one, and they're connected actually, but when I did engineering at WVU, I did the 4 years there. I graduated actually 10 years ago this month. I'll tell you how long ago this was. There was a guy I had some classes with. I did mechanical engineering. He did industrial engineering. There's some overlap. You had all the same math classes and science classes. And he had some of the basic mechanical engineering classes like I did too. And one thing that really struck me, and he had a reputation about this throughout the engineering school, he was the guy, if he found something that was useful for his classes, he shared it with everybody. All you had to do was ask. And I had my one industrial engineering class I had to have. And I'll tell you how long ago this was. This was before Facebook. This was AOL Instant Messenger. I brought it up and messaged him and said, hey, do you have anything for the labs for this? Then instantly I got a zip file instant message to me, telling you how old this was. Every single Word document, spreadsheet, old lab report, stuff that was pretty much borderline I should even have. And he had it and sent it to me. And I said, oh, well, thank you. And he said, don't worry about it. We're all in this together. And that was his attitude all through school. Everybody he was in class with, we're all in this together. I'll help you. You just help me out if we need help. And I think that's actually, this is the kind of guy that he partied all the time and just barely got it together to get to class. But don't know if I'd ever seen him at church, at least where I went. But I think he really, without realizing it, he stumbled on a very biblical concept. We're all in this together. And that leads into my second story. And things have changed about how the congregations are up in Morgantown, but at the time, the congregation I went to had their own campus ministry, and they'd have little devotionals and stuff. And one time, a campus minister gave out a handout. I don't remember how it tied in with the lesson, but it was just a list of verses that had one another, the phrase one another in it. And I did some quick Googling. Yeah, I'll admit it, I Googled this. And I found pretty much what he gave us. It might have been a little different. And it's just whoever wrote this, the translation they used, found 59 instances where they used the phrase one another in the New Testament. I'm just going to skim through these real quick. Again, when I was researching this, I found some places, and you can find them pretty easily. They actually broke them down, the ones that dealt with teaching, one that dealt with encouraging, one that dealt with this. I'm just going to go through, not all of them, but a lot of them. Again, the translation this writer used, Mark 9:50, said, be at peace with one another. In other words, let's all get along. John 13 used the phrase love one another 3 times. John 15 used that phrase twice. Romans 12:10, be devoted to one another in brotherly love. Live in harmony with one another, Romans 12:16. Instruct one another, Romans 15:14. Have equal concern for each other, 1 Corinthians 12:25. I know I'm going through this quick. If anybody wants this afterwards, I'll give it to you. Serve one another in love, Galatians 5:13. Carry each other's burdens, Galatians 6:12. Forgive each other, Romans 4:32. We hear this one more for why we don't use instrumental music, but it fits here. Speak to one another in psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs, Ephesians 5:19. Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ, Ephesians 5:21. Page 2 now. Colossians 3:16, teach and admonish one another. Again, we use that more for no instrumental music, but we are also to teach each other, encourage or admonish one another. Encourage each other, 1 Thessalonians 4:18 and 1 Thessalonians 5:11 uses that. Build each other up, 1 Thessalonians 5:11. Encourage one another daily, Hebrews 3:13. Don't grumble against each other, James 5:9. Confess your sins to each other, James 5:16. Love one another deeply from the heart, 1 Peter 3:8. Going down just towards the bottom now. Offer hospitality to one another without grumbling, 1 Peter 4:9. Love one another is said 1, 2, 3 times and 5 times in 1 John and once in 2 John. Now, that's all I have, depending on your translations, they might word this a little differently and all, and I went through that quick. I may have got something wrong. Keep in mind, Zyrtec caffeine going on right now. The campus minister of the church up there hired at the time gave this out, and this is one of those things I think it's very easily to at least intellectually understand. Okay, help one another out, be nice to each other. But how often do we actually mess this up? And just think about it, just be honest, because I know I can think of times right off the top of my head I have messed this up horribly. And one thing, and this is story number 2, when that campus minister gave us this handout, because there were some not horrible things, but just little things we did that really didn't fit this. So then a couple years later, we got the same handout on a different piece of paper, different colored paper. And did we get the point that he's giving us the same lesson again? Nope. We thought he got lazy and started recycling sermon lessons before we all graduated. So pretty much right in the middle of hearing this lesson, we were disobeying it. It only took me, 10 years to figure it out? So, I mean, that's really something we got to realize here. We're all on the same team. We all need to help each other out. And I mean, I can think of instances, you hear stories out there, this church or that church split because they didn't follow this, not the one another verses. If they'd have actually helped each other out, bore each other burdens, shown kindness to each other, church wouldn't have split. There's lots of people out there I know who won't have anything to do with church in any form. And they'll be vague about it. They'll say, well, I had a bad experience. Well, somebody may have not followed this one another thing. Just all sorts of instances out there like that. So now when we're done here, when we interact with each other, and even people who aren't necessarily Christians, just remember all these one another verses that I skimmed through real quick. Thank you.